hosted by the incredible Dr. Nee. Dr. Nee is a foremost leadership expert in the area of neuro-leadership, neuro-change, and neuro-performance for business executives and career professionals. Some of Dr. Nee's life-changing materials are the Brain, Mind, and Change series, which consists of 10 modules from Dr. Nee and other insightful facilitators. Visit legacyconsult.com.au/products to get yours at a 50% discount. Also available is the Neuroscience of Peak Performance by Dr. Nee and one of Australia's leading neuro leadership coach, Kirsten. Visit legacyconsults.com.au/product to get a 50% discount. You can also get 3 months exclusive one-on-one coaching with Dr. Nee, or you can choose to join a group coaching call. Visit legacyconsults.com.au/products to book your slot. Finally, you can get Dr. Nee's books, Navigating Change, Vittoria Acerta, and Hager on Amazon. And you can pre-order your copy of his new books, Changing You and Overcoming. All products and materials are available at a 50% discount only during this conference. This includes a special masterclass that Dr. Nee and Kirsten will be hosting on the 20th of September, titled The Neuroscience of Leadership and Influence. Visit neeborire.com/neuroperformance for more information and to book your slot. You don't want to miss it.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you are logging on from. It's an amazing pleasure to be here it's morning for me because I'm in the UK, right? So where are you logging on from? Where are you logging on from? I would like to see where you are connecting from. My name is Kemi Oye, and I'm going to be your lovely host for this session. So this is session number 3. So tell me, where are you logging on from? Australia. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Elizabeth, welcome. It's nice to have you. Precious is watching from Nigeria. Amazing. Emmanuel, Lagos, Nigeria. Nice to have you. Anu, hello from the UK. Amazing to have you. Who else is with us? Who else? Hev is connecting from Sydney, Australia. Amazing. Who else is with us? Are you ready to go? Are you expectant? So who was with us yesterday? So for session 1, that was the amazing Mrs. A. Gee, was that not mind-blowing? Who was here with us for session 1? So tell me, if you were here for session 1, just indicate in the chat function, I was here. Tell me, who was here for session 1? So we're still connecting. Amazing. Sylvia, I see you. Emmanuel, I see you are highly expectant. I see you. Mercy, Cape Town, South Africa. Mercy was here. Amazing. Nice to have you today for session 3. So what was your takeaway from session 1? What stood out the most for you in session 1? Mercy, what stood out for you? Okoye said you were here for session 1. Amazing. Sarah, you were here for session 1. What stood out for you? What was your key takeaway? What did you listen to that made you go, oh my goodness? Like, seriously, what was your takeaway from session 1? Confidence, good morning. Emmanuel, good morning. You were here. Joy, you were here. So what was your takeaway from session 1? What was your takeaway? Ayemi, what was your takeaway? Victor, nice to have you. All the way from Australia. Is that how you pronounce it? Australia, nice to have you. Right, so I got one. Bolanle says, you reproduce yourself as a leader. This cuts across every level of life. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Mercy says, mentorship is not cloning. I loved that. I loved what Mrs. A said about mentorship not replicating yourself of someone else. Olawale says, yesterday's session was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes, it was awesome. Succession preserves success. Sarah, thank you for sharing that. David says, a mentor gives you what you don't have, while a coach brings out the best in you. Fantastic. Thank you, David, for sharing. Joseph says, oh, you're saying where you're connecting from. Oh my goodness. What's the weather like in New Guinea? What is the weather like? Joseph, nice to have you. Really nice to have you. Eze Precious says, the key to transgenerational leadership is succession. Thank you, Eze, for sharing. Hev says, give your best, live your best until your best becomes your best. Deep, deep. Precious, I learnt that when submitting as a mentee, I am to serve my way up, bringing something to the table. Yes, indeed, you ought to bring something to the table. Adebowale says transparency. Absolutely fundamental. Okay, let's move on to session 2. Who was here for session 2? And what were some of the key takeaways? So session 2 was fire. It was fire. So we had DDK, we had Dr. Sam, and we had Sarefti. So what were the key things that stood out for you in session 2? Do share, do share. Do share. What were the things that stood out for you? So Elizabeth says, every vision is greater than the visionary. Fantastic. Absolutely correct. Who else was here for session 2? Who else was here? Okoye says, I was here. Okay, Adekunle, leadership is caught, not taught. That's deep. That's deep. Leadership is caught and not taught. Okay. Thank you, Bolanle. Thank you. It's nice to have you. And it's nice to be appreciated. So thank you so much. I also see Amakri. So hello, hello, hello. It's really good to have you on here. Amakri, the line kept you glued. The brutal simplicity of the truth. Thank you so much for sharing that, Amakri. Amazing to have you. And I do hope that you stay for the entirety of today's session. Olarawaju says, be willing to be a student of your domain. Session 2, amazing. That's quite phenomenal. Be willing to be a student of your domain. Amazing. Okay, what else? What else? What else? Elizabeth, in session 2, you took away love, faith, and hope is what you sustain as a visionary leader. Absolutely, absolutely. Sunday says the visionary leader is the bridge between today and tomorrow. Fantastic. I love that. The bridge between today and tomorrow. Fantastic. Onyenze says a meaningless life lacks productivity. Lacks productivity. Do the right thing at all times, all the time. Do the right thing. Leadership is a lifestyle. Thank you so much, Igwoko Uche. Thank you so much for all that sharing. I learnt that you are, I didn't quite catch that, but we are. So today is going to be, you know when you turn up the heat on something. So session 1 was hot. Session 2 was hotter, but session 3 today, I promise you, it's going to be fire. And I am looking forward to it because we have 5 phenomenal speakers. And I've got my pen and paper and I'm good to go. But what I would like for you to do, right, is like, and share. So go onto your WhatsApp and just share and say where you are and, like this, subscribe to this and do share. It's no good enjoying all of this, particularly those who've been connected from session 1. So you've learned a lot, you're taking away a lot. So really, what I would like for you to do is like and share. So share with the people that you care about, and even the people that you don't so much care about, because actually we all need to learn, we all need to be empowered, and there's so much that we can take away, that we will be taking away from today's session. So please do share, like, and encourage people to join in. So I am ready. Are you ready? Are you ready for the 5 phenomenal women that are coming up this morning, afternoon, or night, depending on where you are? If you are ready, put in the chat box, I am ready. Let me see who's ready. Let's see who's ready. Who is ready? Who is ready? Who's ready? Come on, I'm ready. I've got my notepad, I've got my pen, and I'm good to go. But I would like to see who else. I'd like to. Okay, fire, sparkles. Yay, I love the emojis. Yes, yes, yes. Okoye is ready. Who else is ready? I'm all ready. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, Favor is ready. Angela's ready. Mercy's ready. Amma is ready. Josiah's ready. Who else is ready? Favor is ready. Yes, yes, yes. Olawale, you are ready. Right. Omowumi says, I was here. Yep. You are ready to. Amazing, amazing, amazing. So, without further ado, I would like the video to be played of our speakers today. And so, take a seat back, relax, and enjoy whilst we bring up the introductory videos of our speakers.
This session's panel is made up of 5 incredible women: Wendy Burns, Kerry Langton, Kirsten Williams, Priscilla Jaya, and Rebecca Forrest. Wendy Burns is an author, inspirational speaker, and leadership coach. With a belief that everyone has a remarkable within, which is so often hidden beneath the bogus stories in our lives, Wendy has helped many people experience extraordinary breakthroughs with her unique ability to press into and challenge an individual's belief system, enabling them to unshackle, reveal, and enable their most remarkable selves. She gets great joy from empowering others to open the door to a greater capacity by realizing their full potential and by revealing that hidden vein of gold within. In 2013, Wendy joined the John Maxwell University, where she serves as peer teaching partner and chair on the President's Advisory Council. The second member of the panel is Kirsten Williams, an entrepreneur and thought leader. Through her speaking, coaching, training, marketing consultancy, and other services, she helps leaders and individuals grow into their purpose and lead significant lives. She is also a credentialed pastor and a Maxwell Leadership Certified coach, speaker, and trainer. Next up is Rebecca Forrest, founder of No One Left Behind, a series of events and community workshops that bring people together to share challenges faced and offer support, connection, and solutions at a grassroots level. These initiatives have branched out across the country. On this panel, Beck will speak to her experiences working with the Northern Territory Police, Fire and Emergency Services Media Unit in the most remote region and most highly populated Indigenous Australian people in Australia. The fourth panelist is Priscilla Jaya, speaker, leadership trainer, registered nurse, mental health coach, and trainer. Priscilla combines leadership coaching with the wisdom gained from being a registered nurse, mental health professional, and trauma therapist. This holistic approach has been a game changer for many clients in conflict resolution, letting go of self-shame, and sabotage. Our final panelist is Kerry Langton. Kerry has worked in various management and consulting roles in both the corporate sector and tertiary education for over 25 years, where she is a university lecturer, corporate coach, and business consultant. Kerry's passion to see parents and families in the community thrive led to the establishment of not-for-profit Parents with Purpose in 2016, where she educates and empowers families to help their kids thrive with resilience and confidence. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the members of our panel to Legacy Conference 2022.
Well, hello ladies. How great that we are here together. I think you're all
Wendy, hi everyone.
Okay, so just unmute your ends, Kerry, Kirsten, Beck.
Hi,
Kemi, thank you for that great introduction, Kemi.
Thank you, Wendy.
Okay, well,
can you hear me?
Yes, we can. So I think we might, I'm just going to jump in and take over, Kemi, and let you take plenty of notes so that we can get this on-fire session started. Okay, we've got a little bit of feedback there in the background, but I'm sure that we can work that out. Can everybody hear me okay, ladies?
Yep. Yes, Wendy. Yep.
Fabulous. Well, what an intro, right? We're going to set this whole Legacy Conference on fire tonight, ladies. Not much to live up to, but I know that we can because I know that the stories that we have. So I want to do my own introduction for you, if that's okay, because it's really important for those that are watching or listening, whether you're viewing on the YouTube channel, I can't even get the words out, or LinkedIn or StreamYard, whatever channel you're on, be sure to like it and share it, because the more you like it, the more you'll raise it up. We're doing this for free. We're giving it away because it's so very important that we bring these thoughts on legacy out for everybody to be able to grow. The group of women that I have here tonight, and as you know, I'm Wendy Burns. I've had my face on this legacy conference for this is my second year, but I specifically sat with and thought deeply into who I wanted on this panel. I specifically handpicked this panel for this session, really. Each one of them is handpicked. Not only are they incredible women in leadership, women of integrity, honesty, credibility, but I can also say they're my friends and they're my colleagues. And I have the privilege of working with them. You may not have heard of their names before, but these names of these ladies will resonate with you for many years after this session tonight. They are the lived experience that they will bring to this panel session is so real and so credible. I just know that it will speak to your journey of legacy tonight as we share. They will empower the steps that you need to take. So let me start with Kerry Langton up the top there. Give everybody a wave, Kerry. Kerry is a coach and speaker, as we've just heard, and she's an incredible lady, and you're going to hear so much of her story. Kirsten Williams next to her is a thought leader, coach, and she's also a pastor that is hidden in the background there. She's another incredible lady. We have Priscilla, Jaya, who is a human alchemist. Have I got that right, Priscilla? Have I pronounced that correctly? Trauma coach, leadership,
yes,
mental health and wellbeing trainer and speaker. Incredible. And the amazing Beck Forrest. Not only is she a speaker, social justice advocate, and anti-violence campaigner, she's also the Northern Territory Australian of the Year, our local hero for the Northern Territory. So we have incredible women on this panel tonight. And I thought we'd start off, so I'm just using my notes, so bear with me because I don't want to miss anything. It's so important. I thought we'd start off by sharing a little bit of our backstory, right? Because otherwise we have all these faces looking out at people and people don't know who we are. But if we can share our backstory, it shows that we have the credibility and the power to speak to legacy and the power to speak to change. So we're going to start with that. Now, some of these stories may be a little bit hard to hear, and you could hear them as a tragedy, but that's not how we want you to hear them. We want you to hear them as stories of overcoming. We want you to hear them as stories of hope and stories of legacy creating. We have such a diverse background, but these ladies and myself are wonderful, great, amazing women of influence here in Australia. Each one embraced the understanding of ownership and responsibility for making the changes that they wanted for their lives so that they could impact and change their sphere of influence. And isn't that what it's all about? Legacy, of course, is about how we impact our sphere of influence. This is self-leadership. And our session tonight is how is self-leadership shaping your legacy? And we know that self-leadership always starts with transformation, and transformation always starts within. So we're going to start by sharing a little bit of our stories. So I'm going to lead off. Facilitator always leads off. That's just how it seems to be. So I'm going to lead off. For those that don't know my story, I'm only going to just share a little bit. And we heard FD share some of his story this morning in the second part of our second session, where he shared the story of the legacy that his father left him. A great legacy. But not everybody receives a great legacy from their parents. The generational legacy that's been handed down is not always the perfect one that we want, and not the baton that we want to take. And mine certainly wasn't. I come from a generational inheritance of alcoholism, abuse, domestic violence, and suicide. My father committed suicide when I was 13. He actually included me in his suicide. He got me to hand him the gun and to witness him take his life. I was 13. That same night, my uncle raped me simply because he could. My life was changed when I was 13. My mother went on and committed suicide on my 17th birthday. See, I was handed a generational legacy that I picked up and I ran with. And that became the legacy that I was going to live. And I lived that for such a very long time in my life until I realized that I had the power to change it. That's only a glimpse of my backstory, because I don't want this session just to be about me. I'm going to ask Kerry if she would share some of her story.
Thank you, Wendy, and thanks for inviting me along tonight. What a privilege it is to be sharing my story with everyone watching tonight. So welcome to everyone watching and tuning in wherever you are in the world. So I guess first and foremost, I'd like to introduce myself as a wife to my husband, Jonathan, and a mum to 4 incredible children, aging from 9 through to 21. And my backstory actually starts from a very young age, where my resilience training started. So I grew up on a very remote country farm here in Australia, where I was sent straight to school at the age of just 4 years old. I skipped kindergarten. Mum and Dad found out that the local school was closing down if they didn't get the numbers, and of course they decided that I should go to school, quick smart, to save the school closing. So 4 years old and sent straight to school. But that's not really the resilience I'm talking about. Where it started, it was more riding my bike to school, 3 kilometres each way each day. So that was 6 kilometres a day, rain, hail or shine, getting to school at the age of 4. So trying to keep up with my older siblings, of course. My grandparents were entrepreneurs. My parents were business owners, property owners. So I guess I was embedded into an environment where taking the lead with business ideas has always been a part of my learning in life. But life at home for me was not always easy. And I had some very real challenges with abuse and with trauma growing up, and into my early adult years that continued. So at the age of 21, I found myself absolutely struggling in life, and it wasn't until I found myself surrounded by a very strong, faith-filled bunch of Christian friends that at that time in my life that I felt God reached into a bottomless dark pit and just pulled me out of that pit into the light. So since then, I have had a very strong conviction that God does watch over me, and I, for the first time in my life, found that real sense of peace in my life, that purpose in my life, and that promise in my life that I'd never had experienced before. And so ever since then, I've been on a journey of understanding who I am, and more importantly, whose I am. So I look back at that moment in my life and really see a lot of favour from God continuously in my business ventures, where I was awarded Young Achiever of the Year for my industry. I've run many businesses over the years, one of which I ran for 10 years in corporate businessware. And interestingly enough, God's timing, his favour, I felt him telling me to close the business in 2019. And interestingly enough, in 2020, no one was wearing business attire due to COVID. So in 2019, I felt very compelled to do a mental health course. And I didn't know why. I just really felt strongly to study mental health. And I did do that course in 2019 because I had closed my business. And interestingly enough, in 2020, the university called upon academics to come and help mentor students who were struggling with their mental health through 2020, where the students were, of course, going through COVID and isolation and so forth. So I guess for me as an academic and as an entrepreneur, I'm very privileged to be impacting the lives of Australia's next generation of upcoming business leaders on a daily basis, and in a very influential position to actually help others to find their unique purpose and calling in life, and to help people find their gold that's within them. speaking life into people and really seeing the people who God wants me to be reaching one by one on a daily basis. So, yeah.
Thank you, Kerry. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this story. Priscilla, I think I'm just going to pop over and get you to share some of your story as well. There's a lot more, ladies and gentlemen, that are watching that you're going to hear from these ladies, but we're just building the background story, right? We're just setting the table for you. So, Priscilla, I know you're sure.
Thank you,
story is
Wendy.
powerful.
Thank you so much. And it is an absolute privilege to share the panel with you, beautiful women. And thank you, Wendy, for this opportunity once again. And what a privilege to be able to speak into the lives of people. So my name is Priscilla. And as you can tell, my accent is a little different from the other four women. They're white and I'm brown. And I do sound a little different because I wasn't born in Australia. I migrated to Australia in 2004 from India. Professionally, I am a registered nurse, but I do call myself a past life registered nurse because I have transitioned into wearing many different hats at the moment. So I do have a backstory. Well, let me call it a comeback story. 2006, August, was the most memorable time of my life. Well, it still is the most memorable time of my life. I had gone back to India and I had a lovely time with my family. I have a brother, and it was time for me to get back to Australia. So my dad and my brother came to the airport to say goodbye to me. Goodbyes are always difficult, and this was the same. I forgot I had to check in. You know what I did? I sat outside the airport, chatted and laughed with my brother until they called my name. And then I began to rush and check in. And as I was moving to the security or the immigration check, whatever that is, I turned back to say goodbye to my dad and my brother one last time. I said bye to my dad. And then it was my brother's turn. All this while, my brother has been telling me, "You're coming home for Christmas. You're coming home for Christmas." And I just said to him, "You know what? Please don't nag me. I cannot come home for Christmas. My credit card's maxed out. I will be home next year." So I gave him a big hug. And that was the longest, strongest, and the warmest hug, which I will never, ever forget. And he hugged me back with just the same passion and the same love. I felt something shift in our energies. So I looked up to him and I looked into his eyes. As I looked into his eyes, my heart sank into the pit of my stomach. I saw something which I couldn't explain. I can't even describe today what that look was. You know, there's a plane waiting, I have to go. And there's a tug of love from my brother pulling me to him. There's one part of me saying, stay back, and another part of me pulling me to get on that plane. But I had to choose the latter because I had to report to work. I somehow said goodbye to my brother. I got on that plane, made it to Sydney. August passed, September, October, November, and December. I get a phone call from a friend of my brother's saying, "You need to come home, your brother's sick." And, you know, my mind goes back to the time when my brother had said, "I will make you come back home for Christmas." And I thought this was a prank. And so I thought, this is a prank. But then this guy insisted, "No, he's really sick. I can't tell you anything more than this. You need to come home." So I thought, okay, let me go home. Let me make arrangements. And in another half an hour, I got another call to tell me my brother was no more. And a little while later, I got to know my brother died by suicide. My brother was 20 years old. He was tall, dark, handsome. He had everything going for him. He was the most responsible, the most cheerful, and he was the life of the party. And my heart sunk. I did not realize that tragedy would one day change the trajectory of my life. And I lost my brother, you know, thousands of miles away from home, from India, in Australia. As a registered nurse in the intensive care, I'm jumping on chests and giving CPR and bringing people back to life. I wasn't there for my brother. My brother did not receive any CPR. And me as a registered nurse, I could not identify those signs and symptoms. I did not know my brother was dealing with depression. He was dealing with suicidal thoughts. And that guilt stayed with me forever until things changed. So I did get on the flight that December. I did fly home that December. But it was not to spend Christmas with my brother, but it was to bury my brother and say goodbye to him. But our God is a God of second chances. Our God is a God who turns pain into purpose. And my purpose in life was born out of pain. That tragedy turned the trajectory of my life. And it's a sad thing that I lost my brother, but something beautiful has come out of it. It's just as part of my story. Down the line, that day when I was at the funeral of my brothers, I stood there and I made a promise to my brother. I said, you know what? This will not happen to any other brother. This will not happen to any other sister. I will go and teach people the importance of physical CPR. I will go and teach people how to identify those signs, how to identify those symptoms of depression, anxiety, suicide. But life happened. I came back to Sydney, I got married, and life continued. It's only after a few years my dream became a reality.
And I'm going to stop you right there because I want you to keep people on the edge of their seats, Priscilla. Thank you for sharing. It doesn't matter how many times I hear your story, it brings tears to my eyes because it's so real. We know that suicide is just the curse of society at the moment, and it's something that, I know I work against, you work against, Beck works against, Kerry and Kirsten as well. Having a voice to make a difference. So keep viewers just on the edge of their seats a little bit longer, Priscilla, because I know there's a lot more that you want to share there. Beck, I think I'm going to come to you because I feel like you can pick up well from Priscilla. And then Kirsten, I'm going to let you bring in the tail end of this. So Beck, are you good to go?
Yeah, look, I absolutely am. And Priscilla, my heart completely goes out to you. And it's certainly a universal concern. We all have a part to play in that. Hi, everyone that's viewing. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. I'm Beck. I'm from the Northern Territory in Darwin, and I feel like the best way to ever describe this is the movie Crocodile Dundee. I'm in that part of the world. I would really love to just start by paying respect to the traditional owners. I'm on Larrakia land, and I pay respect to my elders past, present and emerging, and certainly pay respect to all of the places that you come from. Now, my story is possibly a little bit different to most in the sense that I've grown up in the most incredible family, supportive family, a really strong background, and, you know, the cement under the background that I've been brought up in was so strong that it has allowed me to flourish from all of the scenarios that have been thrown at me. So I've lived and worked all across Australia, and I came to the Northern Territory about 15 years ago, and you kind of blink and 10 more years pass you by. So 15 years ago, I had an interview with the Northern Territory Police, Fire and Emergency Services for a public servant role, but it's in the media marketing crisis communications unit. And they're like, oh, you've moved all around Australia. Like, why is that? So I figured, well, I've been on the run from you mob. So if you hire me, then you at least know where I'm at. And they mentioned that I definitely needed a sense of humour to work with them. So I was hired on the spot, not due to, the 4 degrees or any of the qualifications I had, but merely on a sense of humour. And it certainly assisted me to get through the years. So while I worked in police, fire and emergency services, responsive to numerous incidents and not a first responder. So I need to make it very clear with all respect that I was not on the front line, but as a media representative, we are literally standing right there. And I have been there for numerous road fatalities, suicides, jumping off buildings and the like, and certainly family violence. And the thing that really resonated with me was so many of the reports that I had to read on a daily basis about family violence. Now, for anyone that isn't quite aware of the jurisdiction, I recognise that family violence is universal and it's absolutely horrific. In the Northern Territory, we are without a doubt the highest incidence of family violence by 3 and 4 and 5, and that's only who's reporting it. So I'm sure you can appreciate that there are numerous aspects of our community that aren't even reporting it. So I needed to do more in the anti-violence space, and I ended up heading up the local committee, which was police and defence, and this was channeling into national boards and running all of the initiatives. But the reality was, at the same time at home, I was in my own family violence situation. So I've really had to deal with these conflicting mentality of being a leader professionally that says no one should put up with violence and going home to it. I feel that the term is probably called a hypocrite. And that's been an incredibly difficult thing to manage. So I did get out of this scenario a few years ago and essentially put myself, whilst in a highly professional role with a public profile, I put myself in what would be known as homelessness in the sense of couch hopping. I had a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 14-year-old at the time, and we were just different couches, different places every day until I could make this work. So I did get out of these situations, but I'm well aware of the acute damage that family violence and other issues have in society, and we need to appreciate that, as I mentioned, I've come from a very strong family background. I'm incredibly privileged with great support and education. I owned my own home and I had a sound income. So I am incredibly privileged, and this still felt like I woke up every day with the flu. You're behind the 8 ball every day, and this goes on for years. So a lot of the work that I have been doing since then, which I look forward to sharing with you later in this panel, is all about channeling those privileges that I've had to make sure that people that didn't have that sound upbringing that I had, how do they manage these situations? We need to make things better for others.
Thank you, Beck. And I know there is so much more to your story, and I know the heartache of those domestic violence situations that you have been in and still get abused from in the background still today is very difficult and very real. But I also know in that it empowers you to do, what you have a passion to do.
Wendy.
Yeah. I can't wait till we can talk more, ladies, to each one of you about your story. Kirsten, let's hear a little bit of your story.
Sure. Thanks, Wendy. And it's amazing just to be involved on such a level, can I say, and welcome to everybody from all around the world. It's pretty cool the time we live in with technology and everything that we can and can't do. It's pretty amazing. So when Wendy asked me to share a bit of my story, it actually took me a minute or two to have a think through, well, what story could I tell? You see, I've got quite a number of them. But the one I'd like to share with you is my journey as a pastor. So my husband and I are married, been married to a great guy. His name's called Langton, for 28 years, nearly 29 years now. And yes, I know I don't look old enough, but I do have 2 grown children. Anyways, Lincoln and I stepped into a pastoring role when we were in our mid-20s, so nearly 20-something years ago now. We kind of fell into the role, to be honest, and we picked up a legacy from a previous church, a legacy from a previous youth group. And we stepped into a youth pastor role. We were quite young. We didn't have children yet, and we didn't know what to expect. And being as enthusiastic and wanting to, 1, please God and serve God, and 2, please the pastors that we were working with, our senior pastors at the time, we were pretty keen. We sowed our life into what we believed God had called us to do at the time. And we started off this small youth group with 12 young people. And for the next 10 years of our life, we sowed virtually our life, our heart, our soul into that youth group, into the church as a larger group. And we had children, and we juggled ministry, and we juggled life. And I started my own business during that time as well. I'm a graphic designer and concentrated more on graphic design at the time. So I juggled being a credentialed pastor in my own right, a pastor's wife, leading young people, which we can all probably agree on is not the easiest of jobs to do. Juggled a career, juggled having a young family, and I juggled my own family, which was quite challenging as well. And we're not talking about that story right now, but let me just put it this way. They were quite demanding of me as a person. And I'm juggling all of these hats and growing these young people and teaching them about God and teaching them how to live a godly life. Anyway, throughout the years, we continued to do what we felt God had called us to do, and we didn't have much time kind of to ourselves. And after around the kind of 7 or 8 year mark, we'd grown the youth ministry to nearly 200 young people. It was great. We did amazing things, and we sowed into their life. And, we're talking about leading for legacy here. And we, at the time, absolutely were convinced that we were sowing into these young people's life for their years to come, not just for our own, but for them. And I reached a point of burnout. We were doing too much. We weren't taking the time to care for ourselves. And through the course of a number of events in my own life, in my family's life, and our pastoring life, what I like to describe as the perfect storm happened. And that perfect storm absolutely knocked me out of the boat. And I got to the point where I was having suicidal thoughts, a point in my life where I was probably at my lowest and didn't really know what to do, didn't know who to turn to for help. And through a course of events, believe it or not, we moved from where we were, and I actually met Wendy through another church that we got involved in. And at the time, Wendy and I kind of, we connected, but we didn't really connect. And I had other people in my life at that point in time that were integral for me to put certain things in place in my life to continue to move forward. But what I can say, and I'll finish my story here, is that period of my life taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about how I can still lead for legacy, but also how I needed to lead myself in order for me to continue to live. So that's where I'll leave it. So thank you, Wendy. I really appreciate this time, and I can't wait to get into those questions.
Yeah, wow. What amazing stories. Like, I'm sure for those that are listening, and I'm just seeing some of the comments come up, and I just want to correct something. Kirsten is not a grandma. I am. Kirsten is not. So she's beautiful and stunning, and she has 2 beautiful children. But I am the only 2. That's right. I'm the only grandma that's on here tonight, and that's 13 grandchildren. So I just wanted to correct that, because I didn't want her to see that little comment later and think, whoa.
So right, if I look this good when I am a grandma, I'll be very happy.
Oh, absolutely, right, absolutely. What incredible stories, right? And that's just the start of a story. And why I just wanted you to share just a little bit and leave our viewers on the edge of their seats is because this next question, and Kirsten, I'm going to come straight back to you. I'm going to leave mine to the end. What was the turning point for you? What was the first action step you had to take when you hit that perfect storm? Because I know there was a turning point. And that's what people want to know.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually remember a moment we had just moved from our safety net. We'd moved to Brisbane from Bundaberg, and which is 4 hours away from all of our friends, all of our support systems, everything. Lincoln was away at a Youth Alive conference. I was in a new place with my 2 young kids, and I was in the shower, and I was literally thinking about ending my life. And it was that moment when I was thinking about ending my life, I felt God speak to my life and speak to my heart. And it was almost like a light turned on within me. And I would have to say that it was definitely the Holy Spirit pointing me towards my future. And it was enough for me to go, hang on a second here, what am I doing? This is going to be okay. And then the next step I took after that, I think, was the crucial one. I called one of my mentors and I verbalized the thought that I had.
Mm.
Because I found that verbalizing it and speaking it to somebody held me accountable to that person for whatever action I was going to take next.
Such a powerful point that you've just said, verbalizing the thought. Because so often, and I know I can raise my hand, and I'm sure Priscilla's the same, and I'm not sure about Beck, but perhaps that's in her story as well, and Kerry's. I contemplated suicide, and I'll share more later. But nobody around me knew, not one single soul. And how many times do we hear, Priscilla's just shared that, nobody knew about her brother. We don't verbalize it, we don't share, and that's the shame. So what we're talking about today or tonight, this morning on this panel, is the shame that comes when things go pear-shaped, right? The shame of sleeping on the couch because you've got nowhere else to live, the shame of hiding where you're at or you're drinking too much, whatever it is. Shame is so incredibly debilitating. And so verbalizing it is so important. Beck, your turn.
Yeah, it's interesting. In fact, I just read, I think you mirrored a comment that just flew up there, verbalizing it is so powerful. And someone earlier mentioned, and I wrote it down because it did resonate with me, the brutal simplicity of the truth. Now, for me, as I mentioned, I felt like a complete hypocrite. I'm this, community leader for anti-violence whilst dealing with violence in my own home. So you're telling people to leave violent situations when you yourself haven't. So I've struggled with that. It goes against my values because it seems so dishonest, and I'm a hypocrite, and that feels terrible. For me, police intervention was the key turning point. It took police officers to take my partner away again for me to just absolutely call it. But then following on from Kirsten's incredible point is being able to verbalize it and being able to speak the truth. And I needed to be really honest. And the person I needed to be the most honest with was, of course, myself. And I had to do a massive assessment. So I have a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 14-year-old at this point in time. I have 3 mortgages, a full-time job. I'm on 8 boards. I'm the chair of 4 of them. And I do heaps of community work. So I had to be incredibly honest about why. And the reality is I did all of those things because I didn't want to be at home. So it had to be a huge pen and paper. I'm a huge pen and paper gal. That's the age. I didn't do these things online or on a computer. I needed pen and paper. What do you need to shed? And I had to be completely honest. I pulled myself off every board and had to be so honest with every single board member about why, which meant that they all had to hear my story. And of course, that comes with absolute shock because I'm pretty cool and friendly, right? So who would have ever thought? And when I'm the ambassador for anti-violence, who would think that you're the one that's dealing with this? So I needed to make those lists, and I pulled myself off all of the boards. I pulled back on all of the charity work. I asked work for, reduced days. I think I went to 3 or 4 days instead of full time, which with a 1 and 3 and 14-year-old full-time job's probably too difficult anyway. You're already putting pressure on yourself without all of those exacerbating factors. So they were my turning points, and really pulling back and being honest with myself. And from doing that, the next steps are great.
So a consistent message there, Beck, isn't it, about verbalizing and being honest? So Kirsten has shared it. You've shared it. We're coming back to these two ladies shortly for some more of their great story. Priscilla, the turning point. You're in that position. You're dealing with saving people's lives at work. You're dealing with the grief of the loss of your brother that you couldn't save. What do you do? Where are you at? What's happening to you in that moment?
I come back to Sydney. I'm still grieving because while I was back home, I was supporting my mom, dad, and my sisters, and I hadn't grieved enough. So when I come back, I have my me time. I'm grieving. And in order to grieve, yeah, I think sometimes it doesn't matter what your upbringing is, what kind of church you go to, because I was reaching out for comfort. So I reached out to medication, prescription medications that were not prescribed to me, that kind of made me get hooked on. So I found comfort in that. And the cycle of grief continued and life continued, where I got married, moved from Sydney to regional Australia, regional New South Wales, and had a child, had a relationship started breaking down, had a job loss because of a medical condition that I had. So from earning sound income, I went to depending on the government, having a little child, and then going off work and on work. It was a mess. I tell you, it was a mess. It was like I was being made to go down into the depths, into the valley. And it didn't feel good at that moment. I was like, at times, why? Why me? How come? But I had to journey that. And through that journey, I'm just concising my story. I started working as a telephone triage nurse because I wanted to be present for my child. So, working from home one day, online, on the computer, I get a phone call from one of the clients, and I'm taking their calls and I'm taking their symptoms, and I start typing. And I realize I'm breathing heavy, my heart rate's gone up, and I am not exactly present there. I'm dizzy, I'm nervous, and I'm not typing my patient's symptoms, I'm typing my own symptoms. I'm writing my thoughts onto the computer screen, and that's what is reflected. I don't know how I completed that call, but I had a nervous breakdown that night. And the next day, I sent my daughter to school. I said, I'm a worthless mom. I'm useless as a daughter. I've lost my brother. And I think there's peace in just ending my life because as of now, there's despair, hopelessness, and I don't see a future in sight. I'm a burden just being here. And my daughter would be well looked after by one of my siblings or my mom or dad. I had nobody here. I had nobody to call. I had nobody to reach out to. And I also had isolated and withdrawn and built a big wall around myself. And I said, I'm going to end this now. So there were linen that I had washed, brought them in, piled them on the bed, made a big hill so that I could just get. I'm sorry, this is a little graphic. Please look after yourselves as you listen to these stories.
Very important.
Good for you. Yes.
Remember, just stop for 1 second, Priscilla, just one moment. Remember, don't see it as a tragedy when you listen to these stories. See these stories as overcomer, a story of hope, because we are getting there. So Priscilla, you are right. Great warning. Be very mindful as you're here. But it's important that the listeners hear these stories.
Absolutely. And I lay there on that on that little heap, which I thought was bringing me closer to my death. And just like Kirsten, I was contemplating to take my own life. I found solace in the fact that I do this my pain's going to end. It wasn't that I really wanted to end my life. And that's the same for everyone who's reaching out. So I was depressed, I was anxious, I had PTSD, and I was hearing voices. So you can just imagine what was going on through my mind. And as I lay there, putting all my plans together and preparing to action it, I heard this voice saying to me, "Is this what it's come to, Priscilla? Is that it? Did I bring you so far just you could end it this way? What about the promise you made to your brother?" I tell you, something snapped inside of me. It was like my mom slapping my face. Well, she has done it. You're allowed to do it in India. It was like slapping me and waking me up with love. And I said, okay, I don't really want to die, but I don't see a way out. And the first thing I did, the first action that I took was to choose life. You know, we have a choice.
The power of choice.
I chose life that day, and I choose life every day. And that choosing is my superpower and everyone else's superpower. That was my turning point, Wendy.
Yeah, the power of choice. Thank you. And I just want to say, and you know, it'd be amiss of me not to, that you know, nation of Australia, we have this terrible record of high suicide, and I know that's here in Darwin as well as domestic violence and right across the world, because it offers a false peace, right? And we know that it comes from the pit of hell. So it's a false peace. And we've already heard that if you're having those thoughts, you must talk to somebody, you must share. You're going to hear more. Stay with us. There are stories of hope in here. Believe me, otherwise I wouldn't have these ladies on this panel. There is more coming. Kerry, share what was your first action step, and then I'll jump in and share a little bit of mine.
Wow, I mean, these stories, they've got me glued to the screen. I'm so caught up with listening to these wonderful women talk. Okay, so for me, I've had a couple of major turning points. One when I was 21, I think I've touched on that before, about choices that I had to make, going from the dark pit into the light. And it was a black and white choice I made that day to turn to God and get some help. My second big turning point was, I guess, a turning point of trust. Do I trust God in my life? And do I trust Him with my life? And so I had just had my fourth child, and it was 5 months later I went in for a medical procedure, and I was meant to return home the same day to be home with my 4 children, but I didn't return home for 2 weeks. I spent you know, the time in intensive care because it was a medical procedure that went very wrong. And to cut a very long story short, you know, I found myself in intensive care really battling for my life. There was a 15-minute window that I remember the doctors saying to my husband, look, we've got 15 minutes to turn things around. Otherwise, it's not looking good. And I remember everyone walked out of the room. During that 15 minutes, my husband went to pray and to ring every church that he could to get me onto a prayer chain. And you know, and I was left alone in the room for that 15 minutes in my little white gown. All I had on was my little white gown. And in that 15 minutes, I can tell you what happened. It was very dramatic for me. It was life-changing for me. So I had always told my children, you know, when they were, you know, as they were little, you know, God numbers our days. He knows the day we're born, and he knows the day that it will be our last day. That we're written into His book, and that's it. And God said to me in that moment, "Do you trust me with your life, Kerry? Do you trust me that I command your days?" And I was very challenged by that because I thought, you know, I like to be in control, and I had to surrender that, yes, God, you are in control. And if this is my time, it's my time. I knew that my husband had a lot of great supports around him if that was my time, but it wasn't my time. But as I was laying there, you know, I felt so peaceful. But this amazing moment came over me where I thought, you know, I didn't have my nail polish on. I didn't have my makeup on. I didn't have my hair done. I didn't have any pretty dress on. I didn't even have my wedding band on to represent my marriage. I had nothing except my little white gown and God. And I realized at that moment we take nothing with us except what is in our heart, that those relationships we have had, the love we have shared, the memories we have created, that is all we take, nothing else. And that was just such a big moment for me, such a turning point in my life to make sure that every opportunity we have, we take, every moment we have to make an impact in someone else's life, to share love, to encourage someone, that we do it. Because like I said, that's it. That's all we get to take with us.
Powerful story, Kerry. And I just want to remind viewers that these stories need to be shared. So please like and share with your friends and your family on whatever platform you're watching this on, because there's so much more yet to come. I love what you said, Kerry, about the fact that you were really laid bare in just a little white gown, right? The things that we think matter really don't matter in those moments, do they? No makeup, no jewelry, no pretty dress, no title. None of those things matter. So I just want to lead a little bit into my story, and your story just leads me there beautifully, Kerry. Thank you. You heard a little bit about my early part of my childhood, and I went on. I picked up that baton really well from my parents. I became a heavy drinker. I ended up marrying twice. I had 4 children. Every time something went pear-shaped in my life, and that often happened, I contemplated suicide. I would contemplate which way I was going to take my life. My life was really a mess. I was going well and truly down the same path as my parents. There was no coming back as far as I was concerned. I decided that I wanted better for my children. There was no saving me. There was no coming back for me. But perhaps if I started to go to church, then they might find something different. And often I would turn up at church hungover. But didn't matter for the people in the church. They loved me anyway. Long story short, I ended up making a commitment to the Lord. I made a commitment because the lady that prayed for me told me the guilt, God knew the guilt I'd carried over my father's death, right? Nobody knew my story. My husband didn't know my story. My children didn't know my story. My friends didn't know my story. God got my attention that day, but he didn't get all of me because I was still a control freak. Just a bit like you, Kerry. You said you like to control things. I like to control everything. So yes, I made that commitment. I started to go to church, but I still controlled everything around me. And that continued. And so, as I said, long story short, I was promoted into from a teacher's aide into a high government position. How about that? Only a God story, right? God had a bigger plan. I went from a teacher's aide, not that there's anything wrong with being a teacher's aide. It was an amazing job and really grew me in so many ways. But I went chasing titles. Titles became really important to me. I was working in government. I got a job in HR. This is this person with no education. I was promoted up and I was managing the whole of the prosecutions for the state of Queensland. There I was. I've gone from this 13-year-old girl to this woman that was on the road to becoming an alcoholic and still contemplating suicide, still sitting in church contemplating suicide, wearing my mask, because we mask things up, don't we? We hide that, ladies. We don't share what's going on inside of us. God will only let us control it for so long. And then he will say, make a choice, the power of choice. We all have a choice, right? My choice came the day that I was in this high position in government, when I was told I was removed from my job and I was told I was put under investigation by the Crime and Misconduct Commission for allegations of misconduct, blackmail, 300 allegations in all. Not going to go into them, don't need to. They were found to be false, of which they were, but it's about the moment that happened, right? I'm removed from my job. The title that was so important to me was disappeared. What was I going to do with that? Everything that I thought that made me who I was, that made me an important woman, was taken away. In that instance, it was gone. I was broken up inside, but I didn't tell anybody. I didn't verbalize it. I didn't ask for help. My husband went to work the next day and I sat on my lounge floor. And in Queensland that day, I was living in Queensland, we had the biggest, reddest dust storm, and so bad that it's actually in Wikipedia. If you look it up, you'll find it there. And it was red dust that was just made everything dark. So it was dark outside early in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, and it was dark inside. I sat on my lounging floor and I contemplated suicide. Not only contemplated, I planned it. This was it. I was ready to have that peace. Everything I knew was lost. Everything that I thought made me was gone. And I remembered, there's a scripture that, for those that have a faith, there is a scripture that tells us about the woman with the issue of blood, that she reached out and touched the gown of Jesus. And I can remember vividly sitting on my lounging floor. And I thought, if I could only just touch the gown of Jesus, as this darkness is coming over me, telling me that death was a better option, that I could go the same road as my parents and I could find peace. I sat there and I literally put my hand out. And in that moment, it can only be the Holy Spirit that came over me. I touched something and this peace came over me and the darkness pushed back. And that thought of taking my suicide was gone in that moment. When I put my hand out and cried out for help, I lost the control that I had. I made and I put into place the power of choice. I made a choice to literally accept Jesus that day, not give him part of my heart and just still control what I wanted to control, but give up all control of my life. That was my changing point. That was my action step. I wasn't going to go down the same path as my parents and leave that legacy for my children. I made a choice for life that day. Just as every one of these amazing women, Kerry, Kirsten, Beck, and Priscilla, made a choice to do something different. Powerful stories, hey? I don't want to leave it just with people hanging on. We've still got plenty of time. Ladies, my next question. We're talking about self-leadership and how it shaped your legacy. What are the things that you needed to do or still do on a daily basis that empower you to change or to create the legacy that you want? What is it that you do? And I'm going to combine two things here. What are the tools that you use? And we're all human, right? It's not always perfect. Some days we can barely get out of bed because, come on, we are women, right? And we are balancing so many different balls, right, ladies? Trying to do 1,000 things at once. And some days we can barely get out of bed. But what do we do? What are the self-leadership tools that you use to enable you to be able to go on, to be able to create the legacy that you want to leave? Because we know that legacy is not about us, right? We might like to think it is, but it's not. It's about the impact we have on those around us in our sphere of influence. Kirsten, I'm going to start with you on this one. What are the tools? What do you do on a daily basis? What are your dailies, as I like to call them?
Yeah, sure, Wendy. I have quite a few. So for me, exercise is a big one. I always allocate time in my day for some sort of exercise. So I'm a CrossFitter. I love going to CrossFit. I'm also a CrossFit coach. So I take classes at CrossFit as well and train other people. That's a not negotiable for me. I like to make sure that my body is moving and that I'm fueling my body well. So nutrition is another one. I'm very particular with my diet. Couple of things though outside of that, mobile phones are the best thing ever. It enables me to connect with people, and it's the relationship for me that is the absolute critical thing that keeps me on track and accountable and moving forward in my life. Now, I know Wendy very well, and she will get a number of texts from me in the morning. Hey, checking in. How you doing, Wendy? Or hey, how's the week? Believing for a good week. And I have a number of people that I do that with. I find for me that's a daily thing, and so that exercise, relationship, and nutrition for me would be my top three.
Thanks, Kirsten. What about you, Beck? What are your dailies?
My dailies. Making my bed's a pretty good start. Winning, even when you absolutely ruin the whole rest of the day. Made your bed. For me, I think it's setting really clear goals, like what do I want to achieve today? And I like to really reward myself. So if I have a hugely ambitious day, it's about, okay, great. Well, if you achieve that, what are you going to do to reward yourself? One thing I've really had to train myself in, because I'm by nature quite a fussy individual, is, now you might refer to it as the sacred pause. I'm still really in the infancy of learning this. Actually just stop and not react immediately. However your body emotionally might want to react, maybe have a think about it and marinate it through. And there's no harm in coming back the next day with a solution. You don't need to fire back that day. And that's something that I am still learning and something that I've trained myself. But yeah, that's definitely it. I actually have a 3-year rule as well with any boards or any charity work that I do. So 3 years is the maximum. And at the 2-year mark, I put my notice in to the board or for the charity event that I've been heading up and say, what do we want to achieve in the next year? And I found that that is incredible for continuing to be, I guess you're always achieving. And then you can hand an initiative over to a whole different committee. Hand them over your IP. Don't be, held up on it. Give them the opportunity of the step up point, right? Because they're only going to make it better. And you never get bitter or twisted or hung up on anything. You're never that person that's just on that board for 20 years because you've always been there. You feel you've got a voice. So for me, it's been about openly sharing and being able to step back, and it's okay. Someone else can have that.
Thanks, Beck. Excellent. We're getting a hurry up. So and that's okay. They're meant to hurry us up. I still want to get the dailies from Priscilla, Kirsten and Kerry. I'm going to skip mine because I'll get that in the VIP session tomorrow. But your dailies, Kerry and then Priscilla. And then the last question. So start thinking into this, ladies. And this one is the one that I want to wrap up with when we get to it. What legacy do you want to leave? So, Kerry, your dailies?
Yeah, I'm a little bit like Kirsten, Wendy. I'm big into health and nutrition, exercise. So they are my non-negotiables daily. Also mental health. So being kind to myself, knowing that just because I might be struggling doesn't mean I'm failing. Just to be kind to myself and really just to keep moving forward. Doesn't matter. They don't have to be gigantic steps. They can be little baby steps, as long as I'm moving forward and in the right direction. So having that Holy Spirit guidance, discernment, wisdom, really listening in, that his voice has to be the loudest voice in the room every day for me, to really guide me. Yeah.
Kerry, I love that. Struggling, but not failing. We might have days that we're struggling, but we're not failing. And that's important for everybody that's listening. You might have days that you're struggling, but you're not failing. Remember, you have the power of choice. Priscilla, your dailies.
My dailies are a little in depth. I have a victim and a victor mindset. I put a line in between and I ask myself, where am I today? Am I choosing to be led by my opinions, others' opinions, or am I choosing to be led by my feelings and my emotions? Am I in a self-blame mode? Am I loathing and wailing? Because that does happen. And then choosing is our power, isn't it, Wendy?
Yeah,
Choosing to have that victorious mindset where I am taking action, where I'm becoming self-aware about myself, my surroundings, and then having the confidence to implement the self-efficacy, to take those actions and motivate myself, knowing this is my purpose. The bigger picture is the purpose for which I was born. This is my purpose. And does this align with my values, my purpose? And what am I doing here as the carrier of that divine purpose that I have? And if I'm living that life of a victorious person, that would be more to do with my mindset and my spiritual aspect. And then, of course, you will have to drag me, Kirsten, to work out. But yes, I eat well, I sleep, I meditate, all of those added to the list.
That's great, Priscilla. And you know, all of those things are so incredibly important. And the dailies. And remember, our emotions don't tell us the truth, do they, ladies? They lie to us. Emotions are important, but our feelings get in the way and our emotions, and they don't always tell us the truth. So we need to find the truth in amongst that. So, ladies, my last question, and for those that want to know what my dailies are, make sure you register for the VIP session tomorrow, because I've got a great, powerful session on the power of choice, as well as Dr. Sam and Dr. Nee. We're incredible sessions tomorrow, so be sure to register. So, ladies, who will I go with first? They're telling me to keep it brief. No, you'll just have to wait 2 minutes. Kirsten, your legacy. What's the legacy you want to leave? Sorry, gentlemen in the background that are running this. It's important that these ladies share their legacy. So just give us 5. We can do it, ladies. Come on.
Okay,
what is the legacy that you want to leave? Yes.
Short and sharp. My legacy would definitely be that relationship is of utmost importance.
You take your time. Dr. Nee said we have time, so you take your time.
But still, relationship is like the key to everything. Like I would want to make sure that my children and their children and their children understand the importance of being connected to people. Because one, you can't do life alone. And you can't do life without other people. And you can't do life without relationship. And God is in the business of relationship. He is the epitome of relationship. And if there's one thing I would want people to walk away from knowing my life, is that I lived a life of relationship.
That's perfect, Kirsten. And that's true. I can attest to that. Thank you. Beck, what's the legacy that you want to leave? And I know it's powerful.
Yeah, so my brand is behind me. It's No One Left Behind. Now, I've set up suicide prevention workshops. I head up International Men's Day. I run women's empowerment workshops in remote communities and conferences. But this isn't about me. This is about connection and having these people attend these initiatives so they can talk about all of the issues and find out where they can go for services. So my legacy is all about making sure that I can hand this over, that these initiatives continue and we keep these conversations going and these stories and these opportunities for connection.
Kerry, thank you, Beck. That was amazing, because I know I have to say, I've got to say, I've been part of No Woman Left Behind. I've had the privilege to go into community and speak at Beck's conferences, and they're the most powerful conferences. Because when we share our stories like we have today, people connect with us because they connect with lived, real experience. So we need to be real so that people can see that there can be hope and there can be change, right? That's what this is about, and that's what tonight is about. Kerry.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, look, I guess my legacy is I want to be remembered as a woman who focused on things eternal. So the hope, I'm big into hope, bringing hope to others, having faith to journey into, the future, even if we don't know what it looks like, and the love that we share with others, sitting under, I guess, the covering of God, who is love. So those three things are something I really want to have as my legacy. Yeah.
Beautiful. In our session this morning with FD, he talked about love, and so did Dr. Sam and Dita Kay. So the importance of having love as part of our leadership. And we're talking about leadership, self-leadership. Priscilla, your legacy, my friend, and I know, again, powerful like the other ladies.
Thank you, Wendy. At the moment, my purpose is born out of pain. I lost my brother, and now my life revolves around carrying his legacy. But I failed to realize that at the same time, I was walking my walk. I was leaving footsteps. I was leaving footprints for my daughter to follow, for other people to look at. So today, what I do as a human alchemist, I literally transform people's lives. I mean, I don't take the glory. It is God who does it, but I have the tools. And I want to be remembered as the agent of hope creator. And I create a lot of agents of hope. I don't know if you know that story. It's a mythical story. It's Pandora's box, where the last butterfly comes out and it kisses all the pain, the suffering, and everything away. And I consider myself to be that butterfly of hope, flying and kissing away pain, kissing away sickness. So, human alchemist, taking crap and making it gold, helping people transform their lives literally. So when I'm gone, people will say, because of her, I was able to do this. I remember Priscilla because she transformed my life. And then going beyond that, so they see the divine in me, and they understand that she was really the salt and light of Jesus Christ. Because beneath the surface, we are all the carriers of light, and we are all the salt. Jesus said, you are the salt of this world. You are the light of this world, and we carry that. And I want to be a tastemaker. I want to be that little light that shines, and I want to be that butterfly of hope, to be remembered as, because I know at the moment, in little ways, I'm able to do that. And it is my privilege to be stepping into it already. So I'm happy to die soon, because it doesn't scare me at all, because I'm ready, God. If he says come, because I'm ready. There's a legacy that'll be left behind. Maybe I'm being a little long-winded here. Would love a long life, but if I have to go, I know that there are lives that have been transformed, and I'm happy.
Thank you, Priscilla. And I'm just thinking of your new husband, who's barely, not even 12 months new, that he's listening to this and thinking, no, not yet, Lord, not yet.
No, not in that way. I just
yes,
said, if it were to happen.
I know. My legacy, and I want to just share this briefly, and then I just want to talk about each one of the ladies, and Kimmy, feel free to come up. I'm often asked what I would change in my past, right? Quite often when I speak, people will say, well, what would you change from your history? And I've only just touched it slightly tonight. And I always say nothing. I wouldn't change one piece of what I've been through, one piece of the horror, the difficulties, none of those things, because it's made me who I am today. I have been called to be a woman of influence. That was spoken over me, and that's what I live every day, by the power of the choices that I make. The legacy that I will leave, not only for my 13 grandchildren, my 4 children, for those that are in my sphere of influence and I get to speak into, I will leave an influence that is something different, that I will leave that sense of people knew what I stood for, who I was and whose I was, and that I've made a difference to their lives. And that's the legacy that I will leave, because I will empower others to find hope. We've all touched on love and hope tonight. I call myself a dealer of hope. I bring hope into situations that seem hopeless, because when we lose hope, we lose life. And I was in that situation where I was about to lose my life because I lost hope. You've heard, I'm only briefly from these amazing women, Kerry and Kirsten and Priscilla and Beck. We could speak for another 3 hours, but I think David Ted in the background would be saying, no, Wendy, it's time to stop. If you've connected with Kerry and Kirsten and Priscilla and Beck's story, or even my story, and you would like the opportunity to connect with us further, there'll be details that will be emailed to you, and I don't know if they're coming up on the screen. I'm sure Kemi can tell us that. We're going to have a little bit of Q&A also if you want to ask us some questions. But if you've connected with any one of us, there'll be an opportunity to reach out. Each of these ladies, Beck is a speaker, Priscilla, a human alchemist, a trauma coach. Kirsten is a thought leader and coach, and Kerry's a coach. I'm a coach and author and speaker as well. And my new book is my second edition of my book is just over the back here. That's up today for sale. So I'd love you to buy it. But what a powerful session, Kemi. Hey, I hope you got lots of notes. You're muted on your end, Kemi. Otherwise, you're just going to hear my voice.
I was just saying, oh, how wowed, you know, I started off this morning with lots of energy going, yeah, I'm ready. And I feel really subdued right now because just listening to the powerful stories, how vulnerable, how authentic, how inspiring, has just made me go, oh my goodness. Really, really fascinating, phenomenal, inspiring. Honestly, I've taken so much away from everything that's been said. I love the dailies. And I'll tell you why I love the dailies, because all these phenomenal 5 of you, right? You've sat here and you've shared from the bottom of your heart. And I've looked at all of you and I thought to myself, wow, you look amazing. But when I've listened to your dailies, I go, there you go. That's why you look amazing. Because, you know, all the things that you take seriously are things that we should all take seriously. Talk about, and I want to say there's a golden thread that cuts through everything that you've all said today. And that is self-care. And that's what I'm hearing, self-care.
Yeah,
and
very
really
important.
Looking after, you know, really just listening to what everyone has said. Also nutrition and diet and exercise, and it's just amazing to listen to. So thank you so much. And I really want everyone who's connected for the last, you know what, it felt like 15 minutes to me. I don't know how it felt like for you, Wendy, but it was, I thought, time? What's that? Like,
I know. Time could not possibly be up. And something that you said, Kemi, I just want to pick up on, and that is, we don't want anybody to leave too subdued. We want people to see the hope in this, right? Even though these stories could be viewed as stories of tragedy, we never want that. We want them to be viewed as stories of overcoming.
Creating hope through action, right?
Yeah, that's the theme, isn't it, Beck? Creating hope through action. And that's what these stories are about. And that was the reason, Kemi, that I put this mix of ladies together, is when we share, because we don't share our stories, right? We don't verbalize. And if we don't share our stories, how can others know that you can overcome? And it's so important to know that it's never too late to start to change that legacy, right? Kemi, do we have some questions?
Yes. So we must have loads of questions. I'm sure we do.
Or maybe not.
I'm sure. I mean, there's so much to ask, so much to learn from. And I like the way, right, so there you go. I think we do have one question from Bolanli that's just gone.
It was, how do you deal with burnout? How do you deal out with burnout as a pastor, Kirsten?
How did you deal with burnout as a pastor? And that goes to Kirsten. I really loved the way you spoke about burnout, Kirsten. I love the fact that you verbalized, and I think that was your turning point, wasn't it? Around just putting it out there so that you could be held accountable. So maybe shed a bit more light for all of us, including Bolani. How did you deal with it as a pastor?
Yeah, sure. So just to fill in a little bit of a gap, I was actually experiencing the burnout and still pastoring a church, actually kind of a new church. So there was a lot of energy and time and everything that goes with that involved. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was hard. And as Wendy said, you know, there were days that I didn't want to get out of bed, or I didn't want to do the normal stuff like cooking a meal or, you know, getting the kids to school or whatnot. But the fact that I'd rung one of my mentors at the time, she really helped keep me on track. So that relationship piece that I talked about as well was a really key thing, because me verbalizing it to them, they could then verbalize back to me. So it was kind of like a coach situation, I suppose. She kind of took me on as somebody that she could coach, mentor, love, because I needed a lot of love at the time because I wasn't feeling it. Even though I had all of the perfect, I'm pastoring this amazing church, I've got this amazing husband, amazing kids, but I literally had to rebuild myself from the ground up. And without the relationships and the love that I was receiving from the people around me, I couldn't then do some exercise, couldn't change my diet, eat the right nutrition, do all of the normal things that I needed to do. And it was a day-by-day thing. It wasn't an overnight fix. And the piece that Wendy was talking about and Kerry was talking about in terms of being kind to yourself, that's something I have to keep relearning over and over and over and over and over and over. I'm not great at it. I'm not perfect at it. And Wendy is great at reminding me when I need to do that. And other people in my life are really great at reminding me when I need to do that, because I get busy. I like to be a fixer, as every pastor does. So, yeah, there's a lot more to unpack there, but I'll leave it there for now, hey?
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for that. There's a further question from Favor, and she's asking, when you feel like you're not giving up, but in truth you have given up, how do you trace your steps back to know if you've actually given up or not? And if yes, how do you push yourself forwards? How do you motivate yourself forward from a place of giving up?
That's a great question, isn't it? And I think just leave it up there so we can just see it, and we might all just say something into this, if that's okay. And we've lost Priscilla. I think the internet's cutting in and out a little bit. When you feel like giving up and you have given up, how do you trace your steps to know if you have? You know when you've given up. You know when you cannot take that next step forward. You are done. You are ready to throw in the towel. And it's a moment thing, I think. And it was for me. I couldn't see the next step. And that was when I knew that I had given up. But there was something that burnt inside of me that told me that I could keep going. It's that still quiet voice, isn't it, that we know that tells us we could still keep going. What about you, ladies? What's your answer to this question?
I might jump in there, Wendy. Mine's probably a little bit more practical and back to that pen and paper response. With if you know that something's got to shift and everything's coming at you, but you really can't give up. So what has to give? And really nutting it down and working out what can you give away and what do you need to keep? And that includes reducing hours at work. That includes things that Kirsten's reflected on very much about reaching out. When can people just come and collect your kids from school? Because that's going to mitigate that stress in the afternoon to give you an extra hour to breathe. So I go back to really practical responses in that context.
And I love that, Beck. If I can just speak to that as well, often we have a huge, big to-do list, right? It's giant. But in those moments when you feel like you have given up and you're trying to work out what's going on, start to think about what you can take off that, the not to do list. And that's what Beck's talking about, is the not to do list. What do I not have to do right now? Ladies, any other responses to that question? Pushing forward is, sorry, Kirsten, you go.
Sorry, Wendy. I was just thinking, and I thought, look, one of the things, I get very busy too, still, even today. I can say yes to way too many things, right? Because I'm a capable woman. I can do a lot of things, as we all can. But sometimes I get to the point where, I feel like I have given up on some things. And one of the things that I learned in the relationship I now have with Priscilla, I did some work with Priscilla, must be nearly a couple of years ago now. And I did trace my steps back to a point. And it's interesting that I found out that I didn't actually give up. I thought I may have, but I actually didn't, because there was still hope. And I think hope continues to push you forward, and hope continues to motivate you to keep going. And not only that, on the days now that I sometimes feel like I've given up, I remind myself, tomorrow's a new day. And what happens today stays with today, and tomorrow's a new day. And that's that hope piece.
That is so important. So the moment you're in is just the moment, right? It's just the moment. It's not your life. It's just one moment. Kerry, do you think we've... Yes, Kerry.
I was just going to say something when I was, I think sometimes life, sometimes impossible situations, out of impossible situations and problems become opportunities, and sometimes when we're struggling, John Maxwell, when I was studying the John Maxwell program, he talked about falling forwards or failing forwards. If you're going to fall over, at least fall towards where you want to go, and that if you were struggling, you're still in the game, and not to give up, but to get up. And I think so through those challenging times, whatever they are for each of the viewers and each of us, the journey of 1,000 miles, they say, starts with one step. But I say that single step, just like Kirsten said, has to be entrenched in hope. We have to have hope for the future. And that's what God promises us, that we have got a future, and it has to be entrenched in hope, that this next step is a step forward, no matter how difficult or how big or small that step is. It's a step forward. Yeah.
I love that, Kerry, and it's so true, isn't it? And I have this image of when there is hope ahead of us, it's like an anchor we throw out and we grab around hope and it pulls us forward, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Kemi, do we have any other questions?
Yes, there's a further one. Olufumilola says, how do we find our fire again when it seems to have been lost after going through a hard season of tribulation? So how do we find that inner sparkle? How do we find that oomph within us, the ignition, after we've been through quite a lot of tribulation?
Ladies, does anyone want to answer that?
Oh God, yes, of course. Fire is my thing. For me, and I alluded to it earlier, in each day with everything that I do, rewarding yourself. What do you actually enjoy doing? And some people need things to look forward to. So it might be, booking a holiday in 3 months' time. For me, I need something to look forward to every single day. So I find something that I really want to do and like every single day. And that keeps me going, especially when you're in those points of absolute turmoil. What do you have to look forward to today? Just one reason. And that really does help me to channel. And even things like, if you can just crunch and get your work done by this time, you can reward yourself in the afternoon, or as simple as, well done, you made your bed today.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great response. Ladies, anybody else want to share?
I'd like to. I'd like to. So how do we find our fire again when it seems to have been lost after going through a hard season of tribulation? Hard season of tribulation would have already put water on it and tried to extinguish it. So before the tribulation began, maybe you had an idea about what that spark or that fire was. So I'd go back to pen and paper, as somebody alluded, and ask yourself, what was it? And behind the tribulation, like all of us sitting here have gone through our own valleys and we've gone through our own dips. Okay, our fire has been extinguished over and over and over again, and sometimes we've been completely, what's that, the fire extinguisher has completely taken it off. But then there's always that little bit of spark left, and how do you fan it? The first thing would be, what is it that makes me happy, joyful, passionate? So from this tribulation, what am I meant to learn? It's not about life has happened to me, it has happened for me. So if life has happened for me, what is the reason within this tribulation, within this suffering, that I need to be learning? Because you don't go through stuff in life, you don't go through that tribulation just because God thought, okay, let me dump this on her or him and just let her be extinguished. No, he gave it to you with a reason. We all had our dips for a reason, so we could rise up and shine. So I would just sit down with that suffering, with that trial, with that tribulation, and look for the lessons inside of it, because there is someone going through the same tribulation whom only you can comfort, only you can pray for, only you can surround with love and hope and joy. So that is your spark, that is your fire.
That's great, Priscilla, and thinking about that there is a testimony in that tribulation, isn't there? There's a story that only that person can share, that only, even though our stories had that gold thread, and I love that, Kemi, that gold thread through them. They're little individual stories, but there's the power of the story, and we've heard that through all of our sessions so far. And tonight was a great example of that, the power of a story. And it's when we shared our lived experience, our real stories, that we actually become dealers of hope, that we become people of influence, because we show that no matter how hard our stories were, no matter what the trials were, that's not our future. That's not, that's our past. We get caught up back in the past and those tribulations. We're turning our head and we're going backwards all the time. And we're not looking forward to the future and the hope that we have. So that is so, so important.
Wendy, can I just say something? That previous question about fire, you know what, fire is very special to me. Growing up, I was responsible for lighting the fire every morning on the farm. And that question just really jumped out at me, because when I think of fire, I think of hot coals. And when a coal is spat out of the fire, it sits on its own. It goes black. It just gets cold. It can't be relit. It's cold. And when we put that coal back into the fire, it becomes red hot again, and it becomes part of that fire. It burns. And I just really feel that sometimes when we are alone, we lose that fire, but getting put back into the fold with like-minded people around us to speak truth to us, to sow life into us. People, like-minded people, the John Maxwell team, Legacy Conference, people who are on the same page, people who speak truth. Like Wendy, you're my coach, and you have, at times when I've been so down and cannot see a way forward, and feel like giving up, you've been able to speak truth. And I feel truth just sets us free in such a way that, we can move forward, and we can, have that fire in our bellies again. It's being when we're isolating or, losing that hope, that we become out of the fold, and yeah, it's difficult.
Kerry, that was perfectly answered. And you know what? I think we might leave it with that answer. I think our time is up, Kemi, and the little notes I'm getting on the side here to say we need to wrap up. We could stay for hours because these ladies are so incredible. And I just want to personally thank them, each one of you, Kerry, Kirsten, Beck, Priscilla, and Kemi, for hosting us. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for so openly sharing your stories. And this is just a little touch of the stories that you've heard tonight for those that are watching. Remember, if you want to hear more about Kerry and Kirsten and Beck and Priscilla and myself, you can connect with us. There'll be emails coming out with all of our contact details. I'm not sure if it's come up on the screen for us, but someone will tell us if that's so. So if you would like to say something as we close, I'll give you that opportunity. We're getting some little notes I'm reading as we go in here, Kerry. So one last word to close from everybody. That would be really, really lovely, actually. So Beck, why don't you start?
So my key message is, I guess, don't be afraid to impart your skills and your culture and your experience, and just to give.
Thank you. Kirsten.
Yeah, my final parting words is I think thankfulness is one of the keys to living a life of legacy and moving past hurts and being thankful what you do have in the moment that you are in. So thank you, Wendy, and thank you to the legacy team as well.
And for Kerry.
Yeah, I definitely think I'm the same. I think it's all about legacy and, you know, taking advantage of those opportunities we get given, living the best life we can, living the life of love, relationships, memories created, you know, lives shared together with those family and friends, that and that realm of influence we have, being kind to one another.
And beautiful Priscilla.
I would like to say that you were made for more and you don't have to play it small, because the God who created you sits enthroned. He's the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And you don't have to be stuck, overwhelmed, sad, depressed. You have a chance, you have the hope to step out and to stand in your rightful place. There is hope. There is always hope. And faith and love anchors our soul. So don't give up.
And I'd just like to say, you matter. Each one of you matter.
Absolutely.
You
And
are
thank you, Wendy.
important. Each one of the ladies here, and for all of our listeners, you matter. Your life matters. And you get to make a choice what you do with it. And the power of choice is what you have in your hands. Even though the circumstances around you may say you can't do much, you have the power of choice. Thank you. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
And I think Kemi's going to talk about our VIP session tomorrow, which I can't wait for.
Yes, yes. So thank you so much. It's been a phenomenal session. So thank you once again. The next session, however, is going to be a very, very special one, and it's the VIP session. Within that, we're going to have Dr. Nee, Dr. Sam, and the beautiful Wendy that you've just seen. Now, Wendy mentioned something just in the middle of the conversation earlier on, and she did say that she's going to be speaking on the power of choice, amongst other things. So I am sure we are expectant and we can't wait. Now, you can get Wendy's materials by scanning the QR code, and that's going to be coming up very soon. But please do register for the VIP session for later on. That's the QR code, so you can scan that for Wendy's materials if you want to do that very quickly. And there will be a short video showing some of the products that we have available for yourself. So the VIP session's up there. It's $99. It's valued at $999. That's a massive, massive discount. So please do make use of that opportunity today. And hopefully we will see you later. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being a part of Legacy Conference 2022, hosted by the incredible Dr. Nii Borire. Dr. Nii is a foremost leadership expert in the area of neuro leadership, neuro change, and neuro performance for business executives and career professionals. Some of Dr. Nii's life-changing materials are the Brain, Mind, and Change series, which consists of 10 modules from Dr. Nii and other insightful facilitators. Visit legacyconsults.com.au/products to get yours at a 50% discount. Also available is the Neuroscience of Peak Performance by Dr. Nii and one of Australia's leading neuro leadership coach, Kirsten. Visit legacyconsults.com.au/product to get a 50% discount. You can also get 3 months exclusive one-on-one coaching with Dr. Nii, or you can choose to join a group coaching call. Visit legacyconsults.com.au/products to book your slot. Finally, you can get Dr. Nii's books, Navigating Change, Vittoria Ercerta, and Hager on Amazon. And you can pre-order your copy of his new books, Changing You and Overcoming. All products and materials are available at a 50% discount only during this conference. This includes a special masterclass that Dr. Nii and Kirsten will be hosting on the 20th of September, titled The Neuroscience of Leadership and Influence. Visit niiborire.com/neuroperformance for more information and to book your slot. You don't want to miss it.
Amazing. So thank you so much, everyone. Just as a reminder, you will be emailed the details of everyone who's spoken today. And I think you should have had session 1 and 2s already, but you will, so keep an eye out on your in looking at your emails to make sure that you've got the details if you would like to connect with any of the fantastic speakers that we've had today. I think this session has been absolutely phenomenal, So many things that, you know, we all have been able to take away. My notes are full. You know, I came expectant, but I'm full at the moment, really full. And there's so much that I'm going to go away and take with me. So the final session is with John Maxwell and Dr. Nii. So the next session, which is session 4, will be with Dr. Nii, Dr. Sam, and Wendy herself. And then we've got the grand finale with John Maxwell and Dr. Nii. So I'm sure we are looking forward to that. So yes, I think Dr. Sam is coming up to, I guess, wrap up. Really, if you just want to share, right? Just share in the comments box. What has been your, no, not what you're going to take. What are you going to do differently? That's what I want to see. What are you going to do differently, having listened to the 5 speakers today? What are you going to do differently? So do share. What are you going to do differently? Okay, Dr. Sam, welcome. It's good to have you. Good to have you.
A phenomenal session today. What a session. Thank you, ladies, for being vulnerable. Thank you for being so inspirational with your stories. I mean, our stories literally are a reflection of God's pattern of influence on our lives. We may not understand many things about our story. And I'm always a fan of talking about how it's very important to profit from our story. It's very important to talk about our story. It's very important to inspire with our story. And you ladies have done that extremely well today. Thank you very much for being a blessing to us. Sister Kerry, great to see you. Always a joy to see you.
Yes.
Thank you for hosting today as well. You've been amazing.
Thank you.
We're blessed to have you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And do you know what stood out for me just as they were wrapping up, right? When Wendy said, I mean, I was listening to Wendy's story, my heart was going, oh my gosh, how much more, how much more, how much more, how much more, right? And what she said at the end completely blew everything out of the water for me. She said she wouldn't change anything. She wouldn't change anything. Absolutely nothing. And I thought, whoa, wow, that's deep. That's
Very.
deep. So despite everything that she narrated as having gone through, she's not going to change anything because she's taken up the lessons and it's made her the person she is today. So my encouragement really is, regardless of what you're going through, right? Regardless, there's a treasure. There's a
Yes.
treasure in every pain. There's something to be taken away. There's a lesson. And I
Mhm.
guess for me, it's about looking at the lessons and just being grateful, the place of gratitude,
Yeah.
because the
Yeah.
person who you're going to become or who you are becoming is
Mm.
more important than the person
Yes.
who went through all of that, right?
Amen to that.
So gosh, it's been an amazing session today. Really amazing, really
Really,
amazing.
really awesome. And it's impossible to hear the stories and think you're going through anything worse in life. Literally, so if you're not inspired, by this sort of stories, I don't know what else would inspire you. But just before we wrap things up, you've heard some stories tonight, but you've not heard all. There's still so much more to hear, so much more to be inspired by. Hence, you need to be at the VIP session, next session. So that that will be tomorrow morning if you're in New Zealand, Australia, and this part of the world. But as well, if you are in the UK and in Nigeria and some of the other parts of the world, that will be tonight your time. All right. So it's going to be an exciting time. And of course, the final session, the grand finale, the one that I don't believe anyone in this room should miss and allow their friends and family members to miss. All right, is the grand finale. So I'm personally appealing to you to make sure that you invite your friends and family members. Tell them that John Maxwell is speaking at Legacy Conference at the grand finale. You don't want to miss that for anything at all. It's life changing. It would literally change your life. So make sure you start to tell a friend now, start telling someone who needs to be here, because it's going to be a phenomenal time in God's presence. All right. And if I may, I think that's all. That's all. David, can you let me know if there's anything more? I believe that's all
Yes.
from our end. Okay, and I've got a free gift for you as well from me personally. Anyone watching us right now, there's a free book titled "The World Needs You." All right, and you can download that free book at legacy.samuelekundao.com. Legacy.samuelekundao.com. So go there right now and get that book, The World Needs You. Inside the book, you learn some of the incredible things that Wendy and Priscilla and Beck and all of them have learned on how they're able to use their story to inspire other people. So you too can do the same. So go get that book right now, legacy.samuelekundao.com. Second, let me leave you
Dr.
to
Sam, do you know, it's just amazing me at how much free stuff. Like, if you had to listen to John Maxwell at an event, a conference, how much would you have
would
to
you
pay?
pay? True.
Right? This is just like at no cost. Because it's not quite free, it's at no cost
Yes.
to everyone connecting. So honestly, I just really want to say thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing this, and for all the products, for all the gifts. Honestly, it's worth thousands. So
Yes.
I really want to say thank you, and for everyone who's really connected, thank you so much for the gift of your time. Thank you so much for engaging and just following on. We really do appreciate everyone who's signed on and connected. Thank you so much.
Awesome. So we'll see you guys at the next session. The VIP session is still open to register. So go ahead right now, and register for the VIP session. The discount still remains the same. It's almost like you're getting it for free. It's a deep dive. You'll be able to ask all the questions you want to ask, right? You'll be able to sit with Wendy. For some of you, I feel like so many people watched it tonight, and you'll be able to sit with Wendy. So if you want to sit with Wendy, come to the VIP session, all right? And you'll be able to.
Thank you for being a part of Legacy Conference 2022, hosted by the incredible Dr. Nee Borire. Dr. Nee is a foremost leadership expert in the area of neuro leadership, neuro change, and neuro performance for business executives and career professionals. Some of Dr. Ni's life-changing materials are the Brain, Mind and Change series, which consists of 10 modules from Dr. Ni and other insightful facilitators. Visit legacyconsults.com.au/products to get yours at a 50% discount. Also available is the Neuroscience of Peak Performance by Dr. Ni and one of Australia's leading neuro leadership coach, Kirsten. Visit legacyconsults.com.au/product to get a 50% discount. You can also get 3 months exclusive one-on-one coaching with Dr. Ni, or you can choose to join a group coaching call. Visit legacyconsults.com.au/products to book your slot. Finally, you can get Dr. Ni's books Navigating Change, Vittoria Acerta, and Hager on Amazon. And you can pre-order your copy of his new books, Changing You and Overcoming. All products and materials are available at a 50% discount only during this conference. This includes a special masterclass that Dr. Ni and Kirsten will be hosting on the 20th of September, titled The Neuroscience of Leadership and Influence. Visit niborire.com/neuroperformance for more information and to book your slot. You don't want to miss it.
Okay.